Hi, guys. Welcome back to another episode of Own Your Essence podcast, where we get to have deep transformational conversations with some of our favorite people. We are your hosts,
Lee Walzak.
and April DeMille. And today we have a special lady with us, and Lee is going to read her introduction, and we will have some fun times with her.
Yes, she is a speaker, podcaster, and encouragement mentor, which I would love to know what that is, who helps people find their voice, set boundaries, and grow with nuance and compassion. So, love that. So, it is our pleasure to introduce Stephanie Ann Webb. Here she is.
Hey, lady.
Hi, April.
Hi.
Hi, Lee. Thank you so much.
Hi. Thank you. I actually am really grateful for everybody that has been so willing to come on and hang out with us because we are complete newbies in the podcasting world. So we're just kind of, I think we're actually still in our pre-recording phase. So we're planning on going live in May next month. So thank you for being part of our brand new journey.
Thank you. And I love the logo. It's very
Oh,
beautiful.
thank you. Chat GPT.
Nice.
I can take zero credit for that.
I love
Yeah,
ChatGPT.
for
It's so
real.
nice.
It's so great. And that's the
It
one
works.
I think that's the one me and Lee liked the most. We kind of settled on that one. So
Those are like my kind of color. I'm very pinky purpley,
Yeah.
pastel-y, so lovely.
nice. Yeah, absolutely.
Love it.
So Lee, you wanna kick things off?
Sure. Welcome, Stephanie, and thank you for being here,
Thank you.
as April said. Did you want to start just by giving a brief introduction about yourself and what you do and who you are?
Yeah, thank you. So I'm Stephanie Ann Webb. I am an encouragement and empowerment mentor and a podcaster. I have three podcasts: the StephUP Podcast, Soothing Words with Steph, and Echoes of Understanding. And I'm an author. I wrote a children's book called What Should Dragon Do? And I'm a speaker. So I speak, I help people. I do different things. When you're like, I'm not just this.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I love to encourage people and I love to guide people along in letting go of limiting beliefs, understanding more about themselves, more about the world. How can we listen to others? How can we be more loving and kind? And all these different aspects of let's make this world more beautiful. So that's kind of my passion, adding value.
Yeah, that's amazing. So I know just based on some of the information from beforehand that uh, a large part, and it seems significant in your realm of work, is finding your own voice and helping other people find their voice, correct?
Yes.
Cool. I would love for you to expand a little bit on that. Like, what brought you in your journey to finding your own voice, and then at a point where you thought, yeah, you know what, I can really help people find theirs as well.
Yeah, thank you. So I grew up very, very shy and very insecure. Like I believed I was worthless. I was actually so in my 20s, I remember, when you cross the street and people have to stop either at a stop sign or at a light. I was that person who thought, "Oh no, I am taking up space. I'm making these people wait because I have to cross the street. I don't
Mm,
deserve to take up space in this world." I believe that since I was little, and that kind of went into my 30s and 40s as well. So I grew up kind of fundamentalist, light version of evangelical and conservative evangelical. And so there was also a lot of shame involved in the way I was raised. And I just thought, I'm female. I have to keep myself small. I'm always bad. And also just how in the family dynamic, there was a lot of shifting the blame to us, like the females in our family. So there was just a lot of different aspects to why I felt that way, why I kept myself small. I was the chubby little kid, so I was teased a lot and I would just get very quiet and turn bright red. I didn't know how to stand up for myself. And that went into my adult years. And throughout, having different jobs, and just putting myself out there. I wanted to grow, and I knew that you had to put yourself in uncomfortable positions. You had to get outside your comfort zone to grow, and I would do that. But it was still so scary, and I was still very uncomfortable. Also, I found out I'm neurodivergent because I'm an HSP, highly sensitive person. So how my brain works, I didn't really fit in a lot of the neurotypical world. I think differently and I say things and people would look at me weird, like, why are you saying that? And I thought I would take the blame upon myself, like, what's wrong with me? But then over the years, I went to three different post-secondary schools, only graduated from one, but I had all these different experiences, right? And then I had different jobs and I went back to school. I studied psychology, philosophy, and I also worked at a call center for 7 years. Now, not my favorite job. However, that was really important in me being able to talk with people, connect with people, and be able to. I never really enjoyed the phone. So it's funny, I lasted 7 years there, but it really brought me out more and more out of my shell. And so I left, that was at a bank when I worked there, and I left that position because of some health challenges. And I decided to study some voiceover. So that's why I bought the mic and I bought all the different equipment. I started studying voiceover. And during that time, that was in 2020, I also started my podcast because I thought it seems fun to have chats with people. And I was learning more about personal growth. And, I'd got my certification in life coach. So I thought I wanted to have conversations about these things. And because I was learning the tech stuff, the audio stuff with voiceover, I thought, why not do a podcast? And my background in working on the phones was so helpful because we had to listen to calls, we had to listen to our voices. And so listening to myself on a podcast wasn't as scary as some other people, like my friends who would come up and they're like, I don't want to hear myself. So, you can see those steps along the way. But starting my podcast was very scary. And even posting it online to my family and friends. Every time it's like, uh-oh, I did an episode on, atheism, which was fun. It was wonderful. And I did a podcast on deconstructing from my religion. And uh-oh, that fear of what are people going to say. But I kept doing it and I kept putting my voice out there. And one of my favorite affirmations is I have a voice and that voice matters. And I kept saying that and feeling that. And the more I just did podcasting and getting on social media and saying things and not allowing people to take over and say, you can't say that, you kind of have to keep doing these things, then I started finding my voice. And I want people to know your voice matters because sometimes we feel like my voice doesn't matter. Nobody's going to listen to what I say. But then you share something and people will resonate with that and they say, thank you for sharing because that's how I feel. And that is so important.
Yeah. Yeah. That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
Um,
Sorry, I was a little bit long, but there's like this whole story
no,
to it.
yeah, no, that's perfect. I actually had a few things come up as you were talking. So, I think it's such a common theme in the world, to what you were saying that really from the time I think that we're born, really, we're kind of bombarded with these messages and inundated with these messages that, maybe our voice doesn't matter or that, we're not enough and we're not up to the standard or whatever it is. So it's always an interesting and sometimes challenging process to unravel some of that. And I don't know if you're aware of what I do, but I actually work as a medium and I work with highly sensitive people, like empathic people, and helping to develop some of their intuitive abilities. And I see to your story a lot about kind of like what you were saying, where people, especially highly sensitive people or very empathic people, tend to struggle with this idea of, well, there must be something wrong with me because we're maybe a little bit outside of the box of, what reality or not reality, what society might deem as,
Typical.
acceptable or
Yeah.
normal. Okay, so, and I'm sure April can identify with some of that as well.
Yeah.
But I definitely can understand that piece. I see that a lot, with people that I work with. I
Yeah.
would love to, the other little bullet points when you were talking, but I would love, if you're comfortable with it, speaking towards, how you were unable to kind of um, untangle and unravel some of the uh, maybe belief systems that you had growing up. You said evangelical Christian. If that's okay, if you're
Yeah, no, oh, sorry.
comfortable. If not, you can, yeah. No,
I
go
I
ahead.
made
Yeah.
that
Yeah. Yeah.
face just because there's so much there.
Yeah.
But yes,
Yeah.
of course, I definitely like I talk about this quite a bit actually.
I think it's worth diving into for sure. And it sounds like you had, like the typical patriarchy.
Yes.
Yeah. So I would definitely love to hear more about that too.
Yeah. Oh man. It's funny because sometimes there are moments, but a lot of times, like when I look back, I think I was doing this since I was a kid, questioning,
Mhm.
but you weren't really allowed to go further.
Right.
And so there's different aspects to like how I can explain how I was raised. I was raised fundamentalist light version because there are people who are raised like literally fundamentalist and it was more intense than how I was raised. But there was still like a culty aspect to it. And yeah, I remember questioning as a kid, can't we just love people? And my dad is very much uh, we have to go out and save people and tell them they're going to hell. And as a highly sensitive person, that always bothered me. So I struggled with anxiety and depression since I can remember, like 4 years old. And there were different reasons for that, but one of them was the religion. It was just like, why are we so like, why are we so angry and against everybody?
Yeah.
And I grew up in the Christian bubble, so I went to the Christian school and church. My high school was not Christian. So it's my first experience being around a lot of non-Christians. And it was I was scared. I was terrified, but it was actually really wonderful because then I met people from different backgrounds. Um, I went to I went to Bible college and then I also went to a Christian university as well in Toronto, uh, which was also eye-opening because I met people in Toronto from all around the world. And I met more liberal Christians because I grew up very conservative. Like you had to be conservative in order to be a Christian. That's like how I was raised. So one of the most important things was getting out of that bubble and listening, learning, talking with people from different belief systems, from different countries, from like it's just wonderful to be able to have these conversations. And I realized I didn't have to be against people.
Yeah.
Oh no, you're this. Oh no, it was always like us Christians in this bubble against the world. We were taught to fear the world. And it makes me laugh though, because they would say, fear the world. And
Mhm.
yet when you have fear, they're like, do not fear because the
Yeah.
Bible says so. And I'm like,
Right.
wait a minute, what? So of course, a lot of us had anxiety, and then you're told you're sinning because you have anxiety.
Well, and then you're just sinning even just to be human, period. Like
Just to be human.
even just to be human.
And that's one thing as like I studied some psychology and philosophy at university. And it was just and in the personal growth spaces, as you start to learn, and it was like, oh, that time I got angry, I wasn't being bad. I wasn't sinning. It was because I wasn't being heard or my
Right.
boundaries
Mhm.
were not respected. I didn't grow up knowing I had boundaries. It was just like you're supposed to do what the adults tell you to do, and
Or
you're supposed to.
sometimes it's even I got angry because I betrayed myself when I let somebody do something without asserting a boundary.
Yes. Oh my gosh. And I'm a people pleaser.
Totally. Yeah.
Grew up a people pleaser.
Yeah.
So starting to realize that you don't have to say yes to everything, that you're able to set boundaries, that if this doesn't align with me, no, I don't want to. Like the most freeing thing, like where you put your energy matters. And I was exhausted for most of my life. And part of that's being like an introvert, HSP, being out in the world, right? But most of that was also because I was putting my energy towards making everyone else happy.
Well, it's almost like when you're not comfortable with who you are and you have so much self-doubt because of the factors that play into your environment, then you're tired because you're drained. You're depleted.
Yeah.
You don't even get to be who you're supposed to be.
Yes, absolutely. And when you're not able to be who you are, y- yeah, there's
You're
a
wearing
depression that comes with it
yeah,
too.
you're wearing so many masks that it's just exhausting.
Yeah. So I feel like I was always questioning, but 2020 was a huge, there were three things that there were okay, there's when George Floyd passed away, that was a huge moment for me because I had heard people talk about racism and I didn't understand it. But I said, I want to know there's more than what I experience as a white female. So seeing the response to that, the response to COVID, and then politically, all of that, I just started questioning everything.
Yeah.
And I was listening to, I wanted to learn from people of different faiths, and it it helped me expand my horizons. And some of the people that I was told you can't listen to that, they're a heretic, like in the Christian world. This person's a heretic because they don't believe what we believe. I was like, I don't care. I want to learn. I want to listen. What do they have to say? And it was so eye-opening because it was expanding outside of everything I had grown up with. And so that's when my I started becoming more free. Anxiety and depression, it was like, wait, I'm feeling better. I'm healing as I'm going through this. And I said to my friend, I'm still scared. What if I go to hell? What if this is evil? And she goes, are you feeling better? And I said, yes. How can that be evil? That's the key. If you're feeling better and you're going towards more healing and love and peace and freedom,
Mhm.
that's what it's about. And if you're stuck in dogma and doctrine,
Yeah.
you're feeling worse. And so I was like, yes,
Yeah.
you're so right, right? So,
That, oh, I'm sorry. Did I cut
no,
you
I'm
off?
sorry. I was just going to say, did that answer the question?
Yeah,
Yeah.
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 Um, Beautiful. And there's so many parallels in my own experience to what you said. But I think what you said is so important too. As far as if it feels good in my body and I feel like I'm healing and I feel, that's the important piece. And I always find it so interesting in my own experience. I didn't really grow up myself with, the religious kind of framework so much. Um, but I find it interesting because for me, spirituality or connection to the other side of the divine is really just about love. That's the way that I would put that. So when people start almost using religion or spirituality as a way to kind of put other people in boxes or cages and limit other people. It's always very interesting because I'm like, I feel like that really, the point's kind of being missed a little bit. And it sounds like that's some part of what you have experienced in your life, with the restrictions and limitations um, and that's not to knock anyone who has, a connection to the other side with religion. I know people who have beautiful relationships, to the other side. I just think, sort of to what you were saying, uh, that if we have a very fear-based belief in something, I think it's always worth investigating. There's always a chance to explore. And it sounds like that's exactly what you've done, though. You've really kind of uh, used your strength and taken your strength to explore because it can be scary, like you said, right?
Terrifying. I
Yeah.
love what you said about the fear-based because, yeah, like I was really angry, especially coming through it. And I was told I shouldn't be angry. But it's a part of the grieving process. You're grieving something that you were given since you were a baby that you believed wholeheartedly. And but also, so I was angry at and labeling things like I was. And like to explain it to people, I say fundamentalist, like conservative evangelical. But I do know people who are conservative evangelical and they're beautiful people and they do have that love. And so it's like it's not, you know, it's a, for many of us it was that. For many it's not. For many they are moving more towards love. So I like that you said fear-based because that's the key. Fear-based and anger-based.
Yeah. Well, and I can relate to that journey too because even though I didn't grow up with a strong backbone in religion right away, I do have very deep roots with Mormon churches and Mormon family. And I still grew up mostly in Texas around my Southern Baptist, the Southern Baptist upbringing here and, strong Christianity. So between the two, there was still a lot of that fear-based the fear-based structure just imposed upon me, and it was expected of me to fall in line and do the thing and be all the things that didn't resonate with my soul at all. Like I was like, this isn't right, this doesn't feel right. And I'm also, sensitive and a psychic medium. And it was I was always in contact with my guides and my soul team. And I knew that I had to step outside of that box. And that was the scariest fucking thing I ever had to do.
Yeah, it is scary, especially when you have people, your family
Hmm.
concerned. Like I was, you're moving towards healing, you're moving towards something that's beautiful, and people are like, and they're scared for you, right?
Well,
Because they
right.
literally believe you're going to hell, but it's like you need more Jesus in your life. And I'm thinking,
Yeah.
I feel like I'm moving towards that where
Right.
I wasn't when I was falling in line with everything. You don't
Right.
understand.
Yeah. And that's the thing is I actually had a conversation with someone, and this was back in like 2016, I think, or 15. It was a while ago. And I was like, what if the very thing that they're teaching us to keep out of our life is the one thing we're supposed to let in? And that was our own higher self, like our own evolved, source, our own evolved light, all the things. And it was so scary for me to break free from that because I also had the people going, you're going to burn in hell. And oh, all that light and stuff is the devil trying to trick you. All the things, I've heard it all. They all tried to manipulate with all the things that they could throw at you. So it is really hard to break that mold, but also, hey, look at you. You broke the mold. Look
Mhm.
at you standing out there, being heard, being seen. Fucking fabulous.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Um, I do actually have a follow-up question to Stephanie about kind of just moving in a different direction to something else that you said, but
Yeah.
I sparked a little curiosity for me and I made a little mental note. So you were talking about growing up, as an HSP, I think you put it as,
Yeah.
yeah, um, highly sensitive person for anyone curious, but uh, I would be curious because I very much have a similar experience to that. I define myself as very empathic and, HSP, I would definitely, I think, fit under that category. And April might be able to relate to this too, but growing up myself, I feel like because I was so sensitive to the energy around me and other people's energy, it was really hard for me to understand where my own energy ended and somebody else began. And then also, like you mentioned before, growing up with a complete lack of understanding of what a boundary was, whether it was in any sense, right? Like I really had no idea what a boundary was, never mind an energetic boundary. But I'm curious if you experienced anything similar to that, like, kind of having difficulty or challenge around, where do I end, where do my emotions end, and where do someone else begin? And if so, I'd be really curious where you are with it now, as in contrast to back then, if that makes sense. I
Yes.
know that was a mouthful.
It
It's
does.
such a great question though, because it's true as HSPs or empaths, like how much of our environments do we absorb and what part is ours and what part is not.
Hmm.
Yes. Oh my goodness. That is And this is the thing that we so don't understand when we don't know.
Right.
Like I found out I was an HSP in my mid 30s because I was
Mhm.
I was with a therapist and she was telling me about it and I said, "Oh, what?" It made so much sense. And actually like I in my mid 20s I found out like I did the Myers-Briggs. I'm like, "I'm an introvert, I'm this." And I'm like, "I don't even know if I'm an introvert, but HSP because I can be with certain people for hours and I have all the energy, right? You can be with one person that's incredibly draining for 5 minutes, and I feel like I'm so exhausted. Um, so yes, the boundaries thing, also being around certain energies, and when you don't know, as soon as you walk into a room, I remember I'm like, I feel good, right? And then I walk into a room, and all of a sudden, I'm like, what happened? And what's wrong with me? What did I do wrong? Why do
Mhm.
I feel like this? And then when I found out I was an HSP and that you can easily absorb the energies of other people, I realized, oh my goodness, it was not knowing I'm absorbing the anger or the fear or whatever of other people.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And then I'm depleted and I feel depressed and I start,
And even illness too. Like, did you notice where you would get ill or start struggling with health issues that might not have been yours?
I have heard that. I don't know if I don't think I'm that strong with that. I
Okay.
think that I don't, I'm not, correct
You
me if I'm wrong. It
you
might,
might have gotten lucky with that one. I did not get lucky with that one. I definitely absorbed. So
I heard that's more empaths, but I could be wrong. Is that because we're very similar with empaths, but also they tell me stuff that I'm like, oh, I don't experience that.
yeah, right. And that could just be very well the difference.
Yeah, it's wild though. Like we're so similar and yet it's like we have different
Right.
experience. Like, yeah. But it was learning from a lot of different people and for label's sake, it was getting into more of the new age kind of teaching because the energy word as an evangelical was like, oh, you can't talk like energy, that's new age, that's this and that, right? So I was a little bit hesitant to start learning more about being an HSP and all that while I was still in it, in the religion. But then as I started understanding more, and I was like, well, the energy makes so much sense to me in doing this kind of work and understanding. So I would learn from people. And there was that, when they talk about imagine yourself in your own bubble
Mm.
and the energies of other people do not penetrate past here.
Mhm.
But first, that takes awareness, though. And so I would start observing, like being around certain people. I'm like, oh, my nervous system is a wreck. Why? Oh, they're very
Mhm.
angry.
Mhm.
And that's where I'm like, the anxiety I had, part of it was from other people. So just starting to, first of all, the awareness, knowing my triggers, what was mine and what was other people, that takes really knowing yourself,
Yeah.
knowing your wounds, but also, um, and one thing I learned from like especially Louise Hay and Wayne Dyer was sending love to people. And instead of me getting upset at their fear and their anger, I can calm myself. And this takes practice, of course. But when I calm my nervous system, and then I can just send love to them, you can feel a sense because you're not matching their energy. You're calming yourself, and there's calm with them that can creep up too. And so that's one thing that I recognize when something happens and I want to get angry or just like, that person. I'm like, no, I'm sending love to them, sending love to them. Um, and that work is so beautiful because I don't want to put more angry energy or fear out in the world. I want to send out love because, like you were saying, the divine is all about love.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. Beautiful. I love that. Um, yeah, I love everything that you just said.
Yay!
Um, but yeah, I think to what you said, it is. it takes an incredible amount of self-exploration and self-awareness to, because like you said, first you need words to put to these sorts of things, and I think for so many of us who are highly sensitive or empathic or whatever it is, a lot of times we don't have the words. So we're kind of, feel like we're kind of out in the dark in left field somewhere, and there's really no words to put to it. So I think that's why some of this and speaking about this and bring it into the awareness more is so important. Because I know for myself in retrospect, like if I had some of uh, these this vocabulary to kind of put to it, and I could kind of conceptualize what was going on a little more, I probably would have had a bit of an easier time. You know what I mean? Which is okay. Everything kind of brings us to where we're supposed to be. But yeah, so I appreciate everything that you said there, and about sending love to other people, I think is very important too, because there is a lot of division and anger in the world, and I think you know adding to that, there's always a choice to either add to that or to, like you said, to do something a little bit different and send out a different vibe. So I love
And
that.
even if you don't feel it, because when I started learning about this, I'm like, oh, I don't feel loving, rah, rah, rah. But you do it anyways.
Yeah.
And then the feeling starts. And as you're doing that as well as healing, right? Kind of you have to start it first. You're not going to feel it right away.
Yeah. Yeah. Um,
But,
and
yeah.
and it's interesting too. You said something about like I'm not trying to match their energy, and that's such a, a important little nuance, I think, of that, because we're as hypersensitive people and all that, we're not looking to make a trade. We're not looking to like, I'm going to take on your energy and then you can have my love, and then I'm going to walk around carrying whatever you're carrying. It's there's a boundary there of like, I'm going to send you this, but I'm not really looking to take on whatever you're dealing with, right?
Right. And I feel like a lot of empaths and HSPs, we're people pleasers.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
right,
Like,
right, for
and
sure.
we want to make people feel better. We don't like seeing them upset.
We don't
Yes.
So
like
then,
we don't like in general, we don't like humanity seeing everybody struggle. Like it's lifing is hard.
yes.
Lifing is hard. And um, we are such sensitive souls by nature that we just want everybody to feel loved and witnessed and heard. And I know for me, it breaks my soul to see people suffering.
Oh, and this is why the news, I can't consistently watch
Oh, I
the
don't.
news.
I
No.
stopped watching TV back in 2009. I could not. I had realized even then, I was never a big TV fan anyway, but even if I had it on for the kids and the news would come on in passing while I was cooking or something, I was able to connect like my dip in moods, or like all of a sudden I was overcome with grief when I was fine all day and oh, I just had the news playing in the background. So I got rid of the TV. I was like, okay, I'm done. So I had to shut that piece off because I wasn't in a place in my life where I understood how to put energetic boundaries up yet. So I just had to remove the issue.
And
Yeah.
I'll go ahead.
Oh, no, I just said, yeah. Good.
Oh, okay. I didn't know if I was, but to April's point, I think that's such a good point that April brings up as well. That as HSPs and hypersensitive, I think sometimes we have to do things that maybe don't always make a lot of sense to other people to take care of our own selves. Because I know for me, I've had people, because I don't watch the news either, I can't do it. Um, Vibrationally it's just too much, and there's just so many variables there. But um I know I've had people say, well, you can't bury your head in the sand and you need to like keep up to date and keep in the awareness. And I think so. I don't know if you've experienced this as well,
I
but
definitely have. I've experienced
yeah.
that where my family members are like, you've got to be the responsible American and pay attention to what's going around in the country. And it's like, shut the fuck up. My responsibility is my self-care and my peace. Fuck off.
Well, that last part though is that, so the responsibility is really to ourselves and making sure that
Exactly.
we're in a state that, is okay, and that, so I would be curious your thoughts, Stephanie, if you've kind of had that experience and also
Yeah.
how you maintain that sense of, I see your point, and also I'm going to take care of me because that's what I need to do, if that is your experience.
To be honest, I still struggle with that
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
because
I mean, that's fair.
it's hard because we care about people. And when you hear stories of people being harmed, you're like, ah, need to do something. But
Right.
like I'm Canadian, so I can only do here what I can do here. But also I'm not a fighter. And there are people, I saw a YouTube video and he said for people who are fighters and advocates and that's activists, that's their work.
Hmm.
Somebody like me, I kind of more like I want to help heal. I'm not really an activist, even though sometimes I want to
So
get like
you're more
riled up and
like,
be
let
like,
me help transmute the energy as opposed to let me be part of that um action.
yeah. And part of me wants to be, but I can't handle it.
Yeah.
And I have been accused. My dad's very much in the news 24/7. Like, and one time he accused me, or he has, not just one time, but he has said he wanted to talk about stuff that's happening. And he goes, you don't care. Why don't you care about what's happening? Why don't you care about, you know, war here and this? And I was like, or he said, he accused me of not caring. And I said, that is not fair
Oh no, that's the furthest from
because
the truth.
I care too much that I cry
Yeah.
if I have to hear the stories of Ukrainians going through war. I'm literally in tears.
Yeah.
I cannot handle it. And I will break down and get depressed if I
Right.
am taking on all of this. So, that first of all, that's incredibly unfair to tell people they don't care because they
Right.
can't watch the news. We care too much. That's why we can't. And
Right.
we have to take care of ourselves first so that we can be there for the rest of the world.
Right.
And I think, I've been in many of these empath HSP spaces, and I have many friends. And some of the groups online, it's a lot of people dealing with the hard part of being it, the unhealed version. And we're all like, we hate being this. We don't want to be HSPs and empaths. It's too hard. This, why am I born like this and this and this? And I get it because I felt like that too.
Oh
This
yeah,
world is
it's
too
not for the faint
hard.
of heart at all.
But in our healing version of ourselves, I'm like, oh, we have so much to offer. And yet it's all of this stuff that we have to do to take care of ourselves.
Mhm.
Yeah.
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 But
So it's not,
that's why we're able to keep generating that love is because we prioritize self-care. That's what
yeah.
we came here to do.
And I think a lot of us came here, if I'm speaking to a soul level of things, to kind of reflect back to everybody uh, certain things, about what is possible when we embody love and what is possible when we
Yeah.
carry and embody compassion. And it is tricky, kind of like, Stephanie mentioned, because and I think April said it's not for the faint of heart, which it's not.
It's so not.
Um, because it's tricky because when you are reflecting back to the world some of these different things, some people who have not met their own shadows or their own triggers
Mhm,
or whatever
mhm.
get very agitated by that.
Oh
So,
yeah.
there's different sort of I think uh things that we just naturally kind of go through as a rite of passage, even, as empaths or whatever you want to call it. Um
Yeah.
but I think that is an important piece that I try to go back to sometimes when I'm struggling, with this feeling of kind of like, this is hard, feeling things so deeply. I will try to go back to that piece of like, I think part of my soul really just wanted to come here to reflect back to people what is possible, for the highest good of things. Um, and also that, and, that, yes, we do feel things deeply, which means that we can watch something like the news and it can be, a really impactful feeling for us, and maybe not in the most positive way, but we can also listen to a piece of music and be so fully moved and immersed. And,
Mhm,
so there is this beautiful piece to
mhm.
being able to feel things very deeply. And I'm curious actually if you have any thoughts about that as well, the um, maybe positive aspects of being able to feel things maybe more deeply than somebody else might. Not that anyone's right or wrong, but we kind of come with that capacity, right?
Oh, I have to say to that, when I started learning about being HSP, there can be an arrogancy there because I was like, well, I care more about people than you do. Like there is some of that aspect too, right? So it's like,
I love
nope,
that.
we're all who we are, and this is like just who we are, and those people. Anyway, it's funny though,
Yeah, yeah.
but yeah, and I mean, this did get me in trouble sometimes with people, especially I worked as a bank teller for 2 years, and oh my gosh, and I love chatting with people, and customers are sharing stories, and it's not even that sad, but I'm like, I got tear, and they're like, "Why are you crying?" I'm like, "I'm just moved," and and some people who don't get it, they're like, "What's wrong with you?" I used to get mocked for crying in movies,
Mm.
especially as
So
a teenager.
I can relate because when I was younger, I would even cry during Lion King, the Disney version.
Yeah,
Oh my
or
Yeah,
God.
yeah.
Hallmark commercials, like.
Yeah, I would bawl like a little tip bag. I would just bawl.
Remember that IKEA commercial where the lamp is getting thrown out and then it's all sad on the road and then the IKEA guy is like, "Do you feel sorry for the lamp? It's just a lamp." And I was like, "Don't make fun of me. I feel sorry for the lamp."
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, no, I definitely got labeled sensitive and pushover and all the things.
Yeah,
I've heard all that for sure.
you're too sensitive.
Oh, that's the favorite.
Yeah. I think most of us who are HSPs and all that have probably heard that phrase
Oh,
of
for sure.
you're
Yeah.
too sensitive or
But
yeah.
it's what you were saying about like the piece of music. I really enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't like classical music when I was younger, but I love it. And it's just
Yeah.
you can feel
Mm-hmm.
just the beauty in it. And I'm like, wow, this is so cool. And I feel like I appreciate it. When I was younger, I liked more rocky music. And in my 20s, I was really into Nirvana and I was in an angry phase. And I'm like, yeah, Teen Spirit, whatever. But there's something about I I don't get caught up in the angry music like I did when I was angry.
Hmm.
I can enjoy a song here or there, but I couldn't listen to a whole lot of it. And now it's like, no, I want to listen to the
Something that's
beautiful music.
soothing. Yeah.
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 Yeah,
It's so
yeah.
funny you mentioned the angry music too,
I
because
know. That's what I was thinking. Hold on.
yeah, me and April just had this conversation
Yeah,
last night
we
Whoa.
just
where
had this awesome conversation last night about angry music. So yeah, no, it's
yeah,
perfect timing.
What were you
well
guys
that
saying?
well, I think I messaged April and I was talking about how I've been into some of the music that I was into more as a teenager and in my earlier 20s, which some of it is a bit more of this, we'll call it like sacred rage. I was into some really heavy stuff as a teenager that I cannot listen to anymore. My nervous system can't deal with it. But me and April, I think, had this really good conversation about,
Yeah.
why, and because she, resonated with some of, what I was saying, maybe not exactly to the music, but, why we found ourselves in that space and how I really felt that there was a part of me and April as well, that really, maybe in a bit of a misguided way at the time, but was embodying the shadow piece of the collective of the world that sometimes we pretend doesn't exist.
Or even
Because
ourselves. Like for me, I was speaking on like the shadow aspects of me that I was so angry and I
yeah,
needed to have a full-blown like volcanic eruption moment. And so I would listen to heavier music in order to initiate that anger to come through because I didn't know how to feel comfortable doing it otherwise. Like I was afraid of my anger. I was told it
yeah,
was bad and I was going to burn in hell and I was the sinful fucking being for being angry or having, these human range of emotions. So I had to rely on Nine Inch Nails and Marilyn Manson and things like that to help initiate like the calling forward the anger, to get it to surface so I could process it instead of holding on to it because I was so afraid to look at it on my own because, oh God, then now I'm going to go to hell if I do that. So it was this weird catch 22, like, Yeah, so that was like the part I spoke on, but like it was so funny because Lee was having something, we were just talking about some similar stuff, so it was really neat.
Oh,
Yeah. So it's,
I love what you're
I was
saying
just,
about that.
oh no, I'm sorry. I was just gonna say it's so cool you brought that up because it's so relevant. Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. And that's helpful because like you hear a lot of like don't listen to angry music, but it's fun when
Yeah,
you
it's
need it.
needed. It's needed. Sometimes it's needed.
And
Like especially
sorry.
for people like this, like us, that have been so conditioned to doubt yourself and not trust your intuition or your voice or your feelings or even be allowed to have feelings. And so we look for outlets to help us cope with that and find ways to bring forward some of those human emotions to help us regulate when we don't have any other safe outlet. It's the only thing we can do.
Yeah. And I don't know if have you guys ever heard of the Institute of Basic Life Principles with Bill Gothard?
I have not. Mm-mm,
Do you know the Duggars?
mm-mm.
The Duggar family? They
I
like
I know
nine,
of them.
19 kids and counting.
Yeah.
Anyways, there was a documentary called Shiny Happy People on Amazon Prime 2 years ago. And they're in this cult called Institute of Basic Life Principles, and Bill Gothard is the man who started it.
Okay.
Um, my dad went to, and my mom and uncles and they went to conferences in the 70s and 80s of Bill Gothard, and he would teach like life principles from the Bible. And then it became even more culty in the 90s and 2000s. But anyway, I went to one or two of those conferences, and he would talk about you cannot have non-Christian music.
Hmm.
He would say like so and so sang a song about love instead of Jesus. Oh, that's bad. And so I remember coming home from that conference. I was in high school, and I got rid of like most of my non-Christian music. But then in my 20s, I was like I got into Eminem and Nirvana and all those things they came out when I was in high school, but I was mostly like Christian contemporary music was what we listened to. And it wasn't that we couldn't listen to non-Christian music. I was still into boy bands like Backstreet Boys and NSYNC, but still. And so as an adult in my 20s, I was like, I need the rage.
Mm-hmm.
And my friends were like, "Oh, you're a good Christian girl. What do you listen to Eminem for?" But it was like, it was just, yes, it was
Yeah,
my outlet.
because it was an avenue in that moment to make you feel human.
Yeah. And I'm like, oh, yeah, Eminem, nice. It's fun.
Berserk is
But
such a great song when you're mad. I love that song. Berserk by Eminem. It's such a great one.
oh, I don't know. I know most like his first few albums. I didn't really, is it later on or is that more?
I couldn't tell you. I'm not an
Oh, I'll have to look
Eminem
it up.
specialist, but he's not necessarily one of my favorites, but Berserk was one of the ones that I think I listened to a lot.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's what April was saying too, and what you seem to have experienced as well, and myself as well, just maybe all in different ways. But because I grew up very much with the I was given this idea that anger shouldn't be felt, sort of thing, like that's a dangerous emotion. We don't want to feel our anger. And I think all emotions definitely have a place, right? And it sounds like you, Stephanie, in different ways experience, that under the religious umbrella. And so yeah, I think it is important though that sometimes, like April was saying, that there is some sort of a channel for that. And yeah, like I agree with April that for me, the music kind of put a voice to that sort of emotion. And that's the only way that at the time I really knew how to move that. Now I obviously know how to move energy a bit differently and honor whatever emotions come up. Um, but even anger, I think, is something that is so misunderstood as an emotion, but also, overlooked and how it can be of service to us and how it can have different messages for us. Uh, so yeah,
Yeah.
that was my thought there.
Good stuff. Really good stuff. Hey, real quick, I wanted to ask you about what should Dragon do? Can you tell
Oh,
me about your kiddos book? I would love to hear about this.
thank you. So I wrote that. It's based on living with roommates.
Oh, okay.
And so I just,
I've had experience with that.
right? And I would tell my friends some of these stories because when you're in it, you're just like, rah. And my friends would laugh and they're like, that's funny, ha ha. I'm like, it's not funny. But when you're out of the situation, you're like, oh, that's pretty funny. So I wanted to write down these stories because I thought, well, my friends enjoy these. And then I thought, actually, this would be good for children's book
Mhm.
because it's teaching you um like little situations. Like there's one situation where Dragon's watching TV and the TV's really loud. And one of her roommates is Racer is trying to have a nap. And she comes out and says, Dragon, can you turn the TV down? I'm trying to sleep. And Dragon gets mad and she goes, it's my day off. I can have the TV as loud as I want to.
Oh,
And so and so it's like Racer's like sad and she has to leave and stay over at somebody else's house. But uh then the question is asked, what should Dragon do? Uh she can watch TV and she can turn it down because, it's about compromise and living together and being kind and things like that. So I have three stories in there about like learning something new, um, taking, being kind, and just like little things that bother us. We can let some of that go. And it's helpful for kids when they have siblings.
yeah. No, that's,
Teaching kindness, emotional intelligence, and stuff like that. So
I think that's cute.
thanks.
I love that. And is it available to purchase places, different places?
Yes, so you can find it on Amazon. Or in Canada, it's available through Indigo or Chapters
Okay.
online. It's a um, what's it called? It's not available in the stores, but when somebody orders it, they print copies.
Oh, got it.
But it can be found on my website. All the links are there, stephanieandwebb.com. Oh, sorry. Is that
What's
okay to
that?
say?
It's
Oh
print
yeah.
on demand is what it is.
That's it. Thank you. I couldn't
Yeah.
think of the
You're
wording.
welcome. You're welcome. Yeah, and actually, now that you're sharing links, go ahead and share all of those links because we will want our listeners to be able to find you in the most appropriate places.
Thank
So
you.
wherever that is for you, you can share that information now.
Okay. So my website is stephanieandwebb.com. And you can find my podcast on there, my book, uh, anybody who wants to work with me as like a mentor, coach, you can sign up with me on there or like, have a chat. You can find me on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at Stephanie and Webb, or just put in Stephanie and Webb, and I'm sure I'd come up. So,
Okay. And I mean, we'll have all the things attached for this as well. Stephanie, I wanted to ask you if you could part with any words of wisdom for our listeners today. What would that final message be?
oh, that's a good question. One thing that I just want everyone to know, because it was so helpful when I learned it, is you are worthy. You are beautiful and you are here for a reason. And we can all find healing in this life. We can all find something that we're good at, something like that we can do, whatever that may be. It doesn't have to be like the biggest thing in the world, but we have value. And sometimes we'll feel like people will tell us you don't. I know I felt like that. And I know people didn't mean to. I know my parents were doing the best they could with what they had, and yet I felt worthless, like I had no value. And just learning that I do have value, I'm here on this earth for a reason, um, is the most beautiful thing. So keep going, you can find it.
You're like, you're gonna find the piece of yourself. Just keep going. I love that. That's a good message. I
Amazing.
think that's a really, it's such a powerful message, but it's not an easy thing to do.
No, it
It's
is
definitely
not.
not.
It's a
Yeah,
journey.
absolutely. Lee, did you have anything else that you wanted to add before I wrap things up?
I think that was about it. But just thank you, Stephanie, for coming on. You are such uh, just a wonderful energy. You have this wonderful energy about you. You're such a light, and that's just I feel like immediate. When you talk to you, you can just
Hmm.
see it immediately. So thank you so much for being here and sharing your story and your wisdom. And yeah, I love all of it.
Thank you. Thank you, Lee and April. This was so much
I
fun. You
I
guys are
want to
so easy
second
to talk
that.
to.
Yeah, I want to second Lee's message. I think that you are super collected and grounded and you're a breath of fresh air. And thank you so much for being here. It's always fun getting to meet new people. And so I appreciate your time with us.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. And also, real quick, thank you to our listeners. I just want to remind you guys that if you have any questions, you can email us with suggestions, questions, topic ideas, or if you need to reach out to Lee or I for any other reason. Our email is ownyouressence podcast@gmail.com. And we're going to go ahead and stop it here. So I'm going to say goodbye to everybody. Bye, you guys.